Not bad. Not bad. A voice traveled from the human realm. Divine light kept flowing in the dome of the sky, as if an illusory figure was forming. It gave off a misty and intangible feeling. The law of time and space. And you've touched onto the level of substance. As expected of the god of creation, the voice continued to say, Yi Futian, I want to create a world of gods. You can manage the gods in my place. It would be an ideal land in the future, where all the law in the world is under control. Everything would operate according to my thoughts. The world would be so much more perfect than the current world. What you want is a puppet world. Only your thoughts exist in that world. And what is the significance of that kind of world? Yi Futian responded, looking toward the human realm. His voice rang through the void. What is the significance of this current world? And what was the significance of the ancient heavenly path world? The voice continued streaming from that heavenly path. Status bloodshed. There will never be peace. It will cycle endlessly. How many people died in the war of the gods back then? How many would have had any shred of pity for the world? The people need an ideal world, a perfect world of gods. Yi Futian did not reply. Whether it was people or the world, there were always flaws. Perfection itself was a trap. Absolute perfection did not exist in the world. Was the world that the human ancestor planned to create genuinely perfect? It was only he who wanted it. He wanted everything to operate under his ideas. And now, the human realm was under his control, but the cultivators of the human realm had been reduced to murder machines. He stepped forward, walking toward the human realm, and stood under that sky. At present, all of the 7 realms were under the other's influence. If the human ancestor did not die, the conflicts would never be resolved. The tribulations of the 7 realms would continue, and people would continuously die. Another figure appeared on the battlefield of the gods. The figure wore a simple robe, but there was an aggressive aura about him. His gaze swept towards the sky of the human realm, and then scanned the entire battlefield. There was a layer of contempt in his eyes. This new figure was the Devil Emperor. You came just in time. Kill him now. I will help you. The voice streamed out of the sky above the human realm. The Devil Emperor looked toward Yi Futian. Yi Futian was also looking at him and called out, Senior. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL. He did not say anything else. This battle was a battle of the gods. The ancient gods and the great emperors of this era had all appeared here. Since the Devil Emperor came, he naturally had made his own decision and choice as well. He wanted to know if the Devil Emperor's choice was like the evil emperor, or if he would choose another path. Yi Futian was waiting for an answer. Then monstrous demonic might flared from the Devil Emperor's body. His aura was extremely horrifying. He was like the body of tribulations. Countless beams of tribulation light flowed across his body, containing immense destructive power. He reached a hand out, and a devil sword appeared instantly. Wielding the devil sword, the Devil Emperor cut down in one direction. The sword cut apart the void and hacked down somewhere. There was a battlefield there. On it, U2 was currently fighting against a great emperor. Just at that time, the frightening devil sword arrived in a flash. The expression of the opponent in front of U2 was shocked. He wanted to block it, but his divine power shield was hacked apart. The devil sword came down and killed him directly. A great emperor had been killed by one strike of a sword. U2 turned and looked at the Devil Emperor standing in the sky. There was a rare smile on his face as he said, Brother, us 2 brothers have not fought together in how many years? There was some feeling of closure in his smile right now. Even though he had always believed that he had chosen the correct path, and did not regret it, he was still the traitor. This was not just an accusation toward him by the Devil Emperor. He had truly betrayed them. The Devil World was the prison of the ancient heavenly path. It was the absolute opposite of the Heaven Court, Heavenly Emperor, and the later Divine Prefecture. They had always been enemies. All cultivators of the Devil World spent their lives trying to use their own efforts to lead the army of the Devil World out. He had abandoned the Devil World without a doubt, and stepped onto another path. Thus, he had always carried heavy guilt on his shoulders. The Devil Emperor looked at U2 and said, I didn't do this for you. I know. U2 replied, not minding. The Devil Emperor's gaze swept toward the sky of the human realm and said, "The cultivators of the devil world will not become slaves." He knew that if the devil world chose to submit, they would forever be the subordinates of the human realm. If they were not obedient, they might be destroyed. What was the difference between that and the heavenly path era? For countless years, they had carried the status of prisoners. They wanted even less to carry the status of slaves after this. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL. Com Plus. The human ancestor had threatened him with the lives of everyone in the devil world, and this had already crossed his bottom line. Thus, he would rather stand on Yi Futian's side. Donghuang Yi Futian, the Devil Emperor announced, "I have already ordered for the Devil World Army to cease fire against the Divine Prefecture. If we are defeated here today, I hope that the world can view the cultivators of the Devil World without discrimination. Being defeated may mean death. If he died, he hoped that the cultivators of the Devil World could live in this world. Senior, do not worry," Yi Futian stated. "Furthermore, if we are defeated, I might be like you and not be able to see the future. This battle was all or nothing. If they lost, they might all die. They would not be able to see anything. It would definitely be an age of darkness." "All right." The Devil Emperor nodded. The Buddha of Destiny had predicted that he would encounter a tribulation. If today was his tribulation, he hoped that the cultivators of the devil world would be unscathed, and that they would be free of the devil abyss's restrictions. Even if there was no devil world in the future, even if everyone in the future forgot the will of the devil world, it was no longer important. The Devil Emperor stepped forward, walking toward one direction, and joined the battlefield. After the Devil Emperor joined the battle, all 6 emperors were now present. They all participated in the fight. This battle gathered all the top figures. If one had to name someone missing, then it was only Ji Wudao, who was temporarily locked away by the current Heavenly Emperor. In Donghuang the Great's battlefield, he and the Eternal Sword Lord were still in a stalemate. After seeing that the Devil Emperor had come to join the battle, Donghuang the Great felt gratuitous. The 6 emperors had fought for countless years, checking and balancing each other, but he always knew who his opponent was. He had never viewed the devil world as his enemy, and respected the Devil Emperor deep down. Now they finally had the chance to fight side by side. 4 of the 6 emperors were on their side. Even the Dark Sovereign was now standing against the human ancestor. Aggressive sword chi suddenly appeared, but Donghuang the Great did not avoid it. The revelation divine power seemed to evolve at this moment. The murderous sword intent filling the sky scattered and became formless, turning into nothingness. No sword intent could approach his body. This domain of nothingness was also expanding and shrouding toward the Eternal Sword Lord. "Donghuang," a voice rang out. Then the Eternal Sword Lord's body was already gone. He had transformed into the divine domain of the sword path, becoming one with all the heavens. His huge silhouette appeared in the dome of the sky, formed by countless sword intents. These sword intents seemed to be immortal, eternally existing in the world. "Donghuang," a voice rang out. Then the Eternal Sword Lord's body was already gone. He had transformed into the divine domain of the sword path, becoming one with all the heavens. His huge silhouette appeared in the dome of the sky, formed by countless sword intents. These sword intents seemed to be immortal, eternally existing in the world. Merely his voice contained an extremely sharp aura. Zip zip. There were sharp, ear-piercing sounds. The vast void was formed by the eternal sword intent. Every beam of sword intent was extremely strong. This micro-world was the world of the sword. Donghuang the Great raised his head and looked at the Eternal Sword Lord. He sensed an extremely strong threat. This micro-world contained billions of sword intent. I cultivated the sword path and ruled the world. I did not think I would meet my match in the later world. You won my respect. This sword is the Eternal Sword. If you can take it, then this battle will be over, the Eternal Sword Lord said. His voice was extremely domineering. The revelation divine power from Donghuang the Great shrouded the vast space. The endless sword intent invaded it without resistance, but they could not hurt him at all. Then divine power surged on Donghuang the Great. Divine light enveloped his body, and he looked brilliant. Emperor light wrapped around him, filled with an air of mightiness. He looked up at the Eternal Sword Lord and said, I respect you as an ancient senior. It's not too late for you to give up now. Presumptuous, the eternal swordlord barked. Then he stated loudly, of the 3,000 great paths, only the sword is eternal. As soon as he spoke, all the divine sword seemed to solidify, becoming able to obliterate every single existence. Everything in that sword domain was about to turn into dust and ashes, dying under the sword. Billions of divine swords in the dome of the sky converged into an eternal sword that could cross over the world. It stabbed down, and it seemed very slow, but it crossed the vast void in every second. The two were fighting at a large distance between each other. Dong Huang the Great sensed the sword might. The worlds in its path collapsed and space shattered. Everything was turning to dust under this sword. In the dome of the sky, the eternal swordlord's face was boundlessly huge. Sword light wrapped around him and illuminated the heavens. At that moment, many cultivators on the continents of the heaven realm could all see a highly brilliant arc of sword light in the sky. The revelation divine power was collapsing and shattering. It could not hold up against the sword intent at all. That divine sword killed its way over, shooting toward Dong Huang the Great. Right then, Dong Huang the Great's body transformed into illusory light, as if he was not genuinely tangible. But the divine light on his body was even more brilliant than earlier. His two hands formed an imprint, and he pointed his finger forward, uttering from his lips, "Become nothing." As soon as he spoke, his body moved forward. His finger transformed into a sword that went upward. The frightening eternal sword intent fell from the sky, but it crumbled in an instant, turning into nothingness. That was not all. Everything under the path of Dong Huang the Great's finger was obliterated, turning into nothingness. After that, everything surrounding his body also turned into nothingness. No type of divine power could survive. The world-slaying eternal sword shot down from the dome of the sky, killing toward Dong Huang the Great with an extremely aggressive force. It was as if Dong Huang the Great's body would be stabbed through instantly and killed right then and there. But Dong Huang the Great did not retreat at all. He continued forward, his finger clashing against the extremely domineering eternal sword. It looked like a moth trying to move a tree. There was no intense explosion. There was only annihilation and nothingness. The eternal sword was actually penetrated by Dong Huang the Great's finger. Then it broke bit by bit, turning into nothingness. The boundlessly huge sword was dissolved, as if it had never existed. This scene made the expression of the eternal sword lord, who had become one with the sky and the heavens, change drastically. Dong Huang the Great continued upward. His finger pointed before him, and landed on the massive face of the eternal sword lord, breaking the sky with the finger. At that moment, the sky was shattering and turning into nothingness. The eternal sword lord's face was twisting. Some sword intent wanted to escape and leave, but under that divine power of the void, no type of chi was able to go. Everything turned into the void. In that instant, everything was shattering. The eternal sword lord's face disappeared. That sword domain also shattered, transforming into nothingness. Dong Huang the Great stood atop the void. His body re-solidified, but his aura was a bit weaker. He consumed a pill and then sat cross-legged, closing his eyes to cultivate. On the other battlefields, the Devil Emperor began sweeping in all directions after joining the battle. The 6 emperors were the top figures of the world. Even the ancient great emperors found it difficult to counter them. Only those super great emperors could put up a fight. At this time, the Devil Emperor and you two already had the blood of a dozen ancient great emperors on their hands. The Devil Emperor's goal turned to the Evil Emperor, who was fighting against the Dark Sovereign. If they killed the Evil Emperor, the result of this battle would be set. Meanwhile, you two charged towards another battlefield. Of course, the most dangerous one was still the human ancestor, who had transformed into the heavenly path. Please keep reading 0 in MYB0XN0VEL. Calm Yi Futian stood under the heavenly path of the human ancestor, and saw an extremely frightening force shroud the vast space. Then Yi Futian discovered with shock that countless air currents rushed towards that part of the sky. At that moment, the entire human realm sank into a mass of moans and cries. All of the cultivators in the human realm seemed to be out of control. But that was not all. Even the people from all over who were fighting there were the same. The human ancestor had refined the human realm. Was he swallowing the energy of the entire human realm? Was he going to use all the cultivators of the human realm? What is that? Futian stared at the upper sky. He saw countless illusory shadows. They were like various obsessions or emotions and desires. Many shadows were struggling, but it was to no avail. They all converged atop the sky. Justice. This was the human ancestor's justice, his path. Were all the cultivators of the human realm his puppets? I must stop him. This thought appeared in Futian's mind. He realized that the most dangerous human ancestor was about to come into the world. With one thought, divine light appeared around Futian's body, filling the sky. Strange phenomena and countless divine swords appeared. He pointed at the sky, and the billions of divine swords broke through at once, shooting towards that part of the sky. A patch of sword rain appeared in the sky, shooting towards that part of the heavenly path. The converged force kept getting extinguished. And yet Futian heard a mocking voice come from the heavens. Don't you call yourself the side of justice? Why are you committing bloodshed now? Futian's pupils constricted. Were the illusions that he was extinguishing real cultivators? This is your justice? Futian stared at the illusory face in the sky. After I control the heavenly path and create a world of gods, there will be absolute justice, the human ancestor replied. The heavenly emperor could not stop me back then. Your mother could not stop me either. Today, you will be the same. The entire heavens turned into an illusory face. All of the gods that were fighting looked up towards there as well. Their hearts pounded. Was the true human ancestor coming? In many continents of the human realm, the trees were withering, and the rivers and lakes were drying up. Everything in the world was being destroyed. The people of the human realm all sank into endless despair. They looked up to the heavens. Was that their world savior? In many continents of the human realm, the trees were withering, and the rivers and lakes were drying up. Everything in the world was being destroyed. The people of the human realm all sank into endless despair. They looked up to the heavens. Was that their world savior? Why was he now bringing doomsday to the human realm instead? The human ancestor was refining all the energy of the human realm. The yin and yang, the 5 elements, and everything were melded into the heavenly path. On the battlefield, Futian and the others looked up to the sky. They sensed the might of the doomsday. The energy contained in that heavenly path already surpassed a great emperor. He was refining an entire world. Many people stopped fighting. Even the evil emperor stopped his battle, and instead looked up at that sky. Everyone felt coldness deep in their bones. The human ancestor's humanity was already gone. Or rather, he was not a human anymore. He already viewed himself as a god of creation. After countless years of cultivation, I have realized the ultimate path. Everything in the world follows the law of conservation. This was the reason why the heavenly path collapsed back then. If the gods want to rise, then the heavenly path must be destroyed. The voice streamed from the heavens. However, they were still defeated in the end. Success was impossible. Nowadays, the world that has been in chaos for countless years will finally return to order. Everything will return to the correct path. The way to return to the correct path is through bloodshed? The evil emperor asked, looking at the heavens. He was shocked by everything that he saw the human ancestor do. All of this was too horrifying. If this continued, he could not imagine what the world would turn into. Since the world follows the law of conservation, then to create an era of gods, there can't be too many humans. There seemed to be a pair of eyes in the sky that looked at the evil emperor. What? Do you want to betray me too? Everything you're doing is incomprehensible, the evil emperor said. He had wanted to follow the strong side, which was the human ancestor. Everything had been decided already, but at this moment, he started feeling belated fear. If the human ancestor achieved his ideal world, what would it be like? I spent countless years and ages to comprehend the ultimate path. It is very typical for you not to be able to comprehend it. I do not need you to understand either, the human ancestor said. I am known as the human ancestor. Thus I will reshape the world order today. The human ancestor, the ancestor of humankind. After he reshaped the world order, he would be the first ancestor of the new world's humans. There would be generation after generation with no end. Boom! Beams of divine light dropped down, falling onto everyone's bodies. At that moment, all the cultivators felt their consciousnesses and minds become muddled. It was like a horrifying intent was trying to invade them and take over their bodies directly. Even Futian felt this horrifying strength. In his mind, he saw a boundless and domineering face invading with the might of the heavenly path. Boom, boom, boom. Beams of frightening divine power burst forth. Divine power flared crazily from the ancient figures whom the human ancestor had revived and brought back. Their eyes became extremely demonic, as if they were no longer themselves. They released divine power crazily as they attacked the fighters. Turns out the ancient emperors being revived was all a sham. They're all puppets controlled by the human ancestor. Everyone understood now after seeing this scene. Futian broke free from the state, and he yelled, "Careful." This voice reverberated in everyone's eardrums like a ringing bell. It helped everyone maintain clarity in their minds. But even so, several great emperors around them still suffered from the sudden attack. At this time, strong divine power enveloped the vast space, covering all the cultivators. It was Huajiyu's divine power of colorless realm. All the strong figures bathed in the divine power of colorless realm and blocked off the invasion of that intent. Poof! Just then there was a crisp sound. Futian looked back toward a certain direction, and he saw that in that place, shock appeared in the evil emperor's eyes. There was a golden spear in his body. The horrifying spatial divine power was distorting the space. This is the consequence of betraying. A voice came from the silhouette. Then the space twisted and shattered wildly. The evil emperor's body exploded directly, turning into nothingness in the distorted space windstorm. He was killed directly. Human ancestor. Everyone's hearts pounded. The devil emperor and dark sovereign looked at the figure who had killed the evil emperor. It was an ancient emperor, but right now, he had become the clone of the human ancestor. He was a puppet. The human ancestor could come to the world by using them. This had already been proven. The human ancestor that Futian had killed earlier was exactly like this. However, coming to this world by using the body of a puppet made the human ancestor even more frightening. As one of the 6 emperors, the evil emperor had been one of the most supreme beings, but he had been killed directly. It was also with the spatial power that he himself had been skilled at. The human ancestor had truly touched the source of all. Just as he said, he was a god of creation. Divine power was no longer necessary, because he represented the law. Please keep reading 0 in MYB 0x and 0 VEL. Futian trained his eyes on that side. Extremely powerful divine power descended instantly, shrouding the other's body. The evil emperor had shown the responsibility as one of the 6 emperors by realizing the end, but he was killed so quickly because of this. That figure stared at Futian with disdain and mockery in his eyes. Boom! Futian's body vanished from the spot. He stabbed his spear out unwaveringly. Time came to a stop. The other was unmoving. The spear penetrated the other's body directly, and he was annihilated instantly, killed instantly. However, Futian did not relax at all. This was only a clone, while the human ancestor could descend at will, appearing anywhere. Those ancient emperors were all his puppets, and could all become his incarnates. This even made Futian feel fear. Who could stop the human ancestor other than him? If the human ancestor's incarnates killed the others, who would be able to stop him? Thinking of this, Futian's divine power instantly shrouded the vast space, covering all the battlefields with his divine thought. He sensed a commotion in one direction, and his expression changed with shock. With a thought, he pushed his divine power to the max. Everything seemed to stop, but a frightening figure was still shooting toward Huajiyu. Huajiyu had released the divine power of colorless realm, attracting the human ancestor's attention, and thus became the target that the human ancestor wanted to kill the most. Boom! In that space, Futian's speed reached his maximum limit, moving like a shooting star. Poof! The attack missed. It stabbed into where Huajiyu had been standing, but Huajiyu's body had disappeared. She was standing at another point with Futian. Futian's heart pounded, feeling the aftershock. He trained his eyes on the figure in the lower sky. If he had been an instant slower, Hua Jiyu might have died in the hands of the human ancestor. Even now, everyone was still in danger. His spear broke through the air. This spear seemed to carry the force of a universe gathered on the spear. It could shatter every physical item in the universe. If it hit a world, it could be destroyed directly. And at that moment, there was only one figure before them. Continue reading on MYB0X and 0VL. Calm the instant that two streaks of light shot out. Everything in the surroundings went still. Even the two streaks seemed like simple attacks. Everyone sensed how frightening the one blow was. It was like time was suffering formless restrictions, and they could not move. The human ancestor and Yi Futian were all above their levels. Finally, the two attacks crashed into each other. It felt like a long time had passed. There was no intense explosion. This collision was already above the law of time, and had also surpassed sound. Everyone felt the absolute stillness. They could hear their own heartbeats. After that, the entire world in that area collapsed and shattered. It crumbled into nothingness in that instant. Everything no longer existed. The strong figures of the great emperor playing nearby all retreated quickly, releasing their divine power wildly to fend off the corrosion from that destructive force. But despite this, some people were still heavily injured. Yi Futian was in the center of the battlefield. He felt the world inside his body collapsing and shattering. Many buildings in his micro-heavenly path world were collapsing. Cracks appeared in the mountains, and the sea was roaring. It was like experiencing a tribulation. His body was forced to an extremely faraway place, and he let out a muffled grunt from his lips. The space around him had already crumbled and turned into nothingness. The perfect body that the human ancestor had formed also shattered, turning illusory. However, as divine light shone down from the heavens, that broken figure reformed and was reborn. It seemed to be eternal and undying. Boom! Right then, a beam of extremely aggressive sword light hacked down, cracking the world. It cut down at the heavenly path. Billions of devil tribulations were released with the sword light, ripping through every existence. It was about to rip apart and destroy that part of the sky. This was done by the devil emperor. In ancient times, the heavenly path had managed the world law and had a consciousness. The human ancestor had cultivated in ancient times, and now, he had become the heavenly path. In that case, killing his incarnate was no longer meaningful. They could only kill the human ancestor by shattering the heavens, like in ancient times. The human ancestor turned and looked at the devil emperor. Scorn flashed past his eyes. Suddenly, countless beams of tribulation light dropped from the heavenly path, shooting murderously toward the devil emperor. At the same time, the huge face stared at the devil emperor, invading the devil emperor's mind. The devil emperor's body was frozen there, but his eyes continued bursting with a really shocking demonic light. His body had turned into a tribulation form, and he uttered devilish sounds that circled up in the sky. Abruptly, light from billions of demonic tribulations swept up the heavens, wanting to cut apart that heavenly path. At that moment, the cultivators in the lower sky saw limitless tribulation light pass through the sky and ravage crazily in the sky. Suicide, the perfect incarnation of the human ancestor, uttered. The next moment his body vanished. A sword of law stabbed through the devil emperor's body directly. The strength of the tribulation light weakened immediately, and the devil emperor's magnificent body started breaking apart. Bang! The devil emperor's body transformed into nothingness and flew into the distance. The human ancestor gazed at the side coldly. However, a moment later, the devil emperor's broken body rematerialized. A beam of divine light wrapped around his body so he would not die. Go! Yi Futian cried out. The human ancestor did not plan on letting him go. Another beam of world-slaying light dropped from the sky, transforming into the spear of destruction. It was like the Dark Sovereign's ability. It could penetrate the emperor directly and pierce the devil emperor's body. But at the same time, a silhouette escaped and left. There was a huge boom, and the devil emperor's physical body shattered. But his divine soul was not extinguished. Instead, it turned and escaped. The human ancestor wanted to continue killing it, but Yi Futian blocked him. He raised a palm. Golden light wrapped around him and pushed up the sky, blocking that attack. Everyone felt a bit of despair. The human ancestor had returned as the path. He was undying, and it was impossible to kill him. In the distance, Lady Qin and Lady Shu at Donghuang the Great, but Donghuang the Great shook his head at them. It's effective. It's effective. Yi Futian looked up at the heavenly path. Back when the heavenly path had collapsed in the ancient war of gods, it had meant that the heavenly path was not undefeatable. The human ancestor was not either. The Devil Emperor's previous attack had been effective, and it caused the human ancestor to grow furious. However, the Devil Emperor had also paid a heavy price. He had used 2 lives in exchange for having his spirit soul escape. You are all looking for death. A cold voice sounded from the dome of the sky. Then doomsday divine tribulations descended from the sky. Beams of the destructive divine light of law shone down, shooting toward Yi Futian and the other emperors. Then Yi Futian's body flashed, going up to the sky. An extremely frightening beam of divine light shot from his body and crossed the sky, piercing into the heavens. Instantly, it was as if the flow of time in the heavens slowed down. Then the space began distorting and collapsing. Yi Futian's body transformed into a beam of light and went upward. The beam of light crossed over the sky in an extremely brilliant manner. Holding the spear, he stabbed into the heavens. The glow of the spear penetrated it, seeming to spear the heavens. The space inside collapsed and shattered, suffering from extreme destructiveness. At that moment, the sky of the human realm also collapsed and shattered crazily, but a frightening silhouette appeared. It stared at Yi Futian. "Let us end now," that silhouette said. As soon as he spoke, countless beams of the divine light of law fell, hitting Yi Futian's body. At that moment, Yi Futian could only feel supreme energy going through his body, penetrating his spirit soul. No one could endure the impact of this terrifying energy. The world inside Yi Futian's body was collapsing and breaking crazily. He spat out fresh blood, and his body was forced to an extremely faraway place. His physical body was about to collapse, and his spirit soul was breaking and extinguishing too. It was like his entire being was disintegrating and would soon stop existing. Bang! With a loud bang, Yi Futian's body was shaken apart. This scene shocked Donghuang the Great and the others. Their eyes stared in Yi Futian's direction, and many people had hopeless expressions. Had Yi Futian been by the human ancestor? Humph! A cold huff came from the heavens. That heavenly path had been damaged too. He had only returned after waiting for centuries, and did not think that someone could pose a threat to him today. The destructive force of the law converged. He was going to kill everyone. Huh! At that time, many people gaped and looked towards Yi Futian's side. They watched as Yi Futian's broken spirit soul actually started rejoining. His physical body was converging and reforming, as if he also had an undying body. Continue reading on MYB0X in 0VEL. Calm. This made the human ancestor let out a surprised noise. Then another gust of extremely frightening energy started gathering. He wanted to kill Yi Futian again. Donghuang the Great looked at Yi Futian, and his body transformed into a blinding streak of light. He rushed toward the heavenly path. After he entered it, his entire person turned illusory. A mighty divine power spread out. It was the power of the void. Transform, Donghuang the Great uttered. His body became the path, and everything surrounding him turned into nothingness. That part of the heaven kept dissipating, as if it would be eradicated and disappear under the divine power of Donghuang the Great, until it no longer existed. Father! Yi Futian looked up to the dome of the sky, his heart twisting painfully. His father had always wanted to comprehend the ultimate divine power. The void was indeed one of the top divine powers. It could make everything turn into nothingness. But Yi Futian felt vaguely that even though his father had comprehended the path of the void, it was still not enough. He was not strong enough to destroy that heavenly path. The human ancestor had transformed the path for countless years, and there was still a big difference. His attack earlier with the path of time had also been extreme, and he believed that in terms of force, it was an ultimate force too. It could make time and space collapse, but it still could not kill the human ancestor. Hua Jiyu also moved toward the dome of the sky. Her dress fluttered as she released the divine power of the colorless realm to the max. It seeped into that part of the sky, wanting to lock up the human ancestor. The Dark Sovereign also attacked. The light of doomsday burst from her body, shooting toward the sky. Everyone was unleashing their strongest attacks to destroy the heavenly path. That part of the heavens collapsed and shattered crazily. Chaotic law and order rained down, and destructive currents went wild in the sky. "You think this will work?" the cold voice said from the heavens, making everyone feel chills over their body. Countless beams of destructive light penetrated the body of Donghuang the Great. Under the blow of the horrifying energy, even the divine power of the void lost effectiveness. Donghuang the Great's body was destroyed and disappeared. He died in the dome of the sky. The others who had attacked suffered extremely terrifying blows, and were sent flying back, even getting heavily hurt. History will not repeat. An extremely cold voice streamed from the heavens. That frightening face was extremely cold, thinking back to the past two experiences. This time, he used the lessons he had learned and did not panic. He was stronger than any previous times, returning in whole and without flaws. He was perfect, and had become the true heavenly path. He was undying and unkillable. No one could ever defeat him again. Even so, he still encountered quite some trouble. This made him feel blasphemed. However, everything was about to end. He was the ultimate god. "Father." Yi Futian looked at the disappeared figure of Donghuang the Great. After comprehending the ultimate path of the void, his father had transformed into the path to destroy the human ancestor. But he had still failed. "Your Majesty," the string emperor and book deity also looked toward the vanished figure. After their master had passed away, had Donghuang the Great passed away too? Then who could stop the human ancestor? Destructive doomsday might radiate it out of the heavens. The human ancestor would not give them the chance to lament. He wanted to kill everyone. Beams of divine light shot down murderously, going towards Yi Futian and the others, and were about to hit their targets. But just then, a formless force swept across, and the entire world seemed to freeze at that moment. Even the human ancestors' attack seemed to stop. Yi Futian felt that an invisible force shrouded the entire world at that moment. He could vaguely sense golden light, but that was illusory and not real. "This is time." That idea flashed through Yi Futian's mind. "Who is it?" "Futian." At that time, a voice spoke, and in Yi Futian's perceptions he saw a figure. "Master." The figure in Yi Futian's perceptions was his teacher. The human ancestor has already become the path. He is undefeatable by human force. If you wish to defeat him, there is only one path, the master said to Yi Futian. "Please advise me," Yi Futian said. "Become the path," the master replied. "Become the path." Yi Futian murmured. "Master, have you become the path already? I have always been imprisoned in time. Not long ago, I finally had some enlightenment. I can help you trap him for some time, but the specifics of what to do depends on yourself." "Who are you?" A cold voice streamed from the dome of the sky. Incredible destructive force exploded, but it had no target. Everything was in a formless state. "Who are you?" A cold voice streamed from the dome of the sky. Incredible destructive force exploded, but it had no target. Everything was in a formless state. The human ancestor smelted the world, and turned his body into the heavenly path. He controlled all of the material energy, and comprehended the force of the original source. He himself represented the law. He was undying and unable to be killed. But at this moment he was trapped in the formlessness. "I came from that era, just like you," the voice replied. "Time." The human ancestor had never paid attention to the teacher of the Four Corners village. To him, he was just an ancient emperor, and not even a complete body. He had collected too many ancient emperors like him. It was not surprising that Donghuang the Great could meet one. He had not cared at all. As the human ancestor, he was already standing at the pinnacle of the world, and had become the path. Indeed, he did not need to care. But he had never expected that the existence he had overlooked was now restraining him. "You are the time walker, Mufeng." The human ancestor's voice was filled with shock. "It seems that you are very knowledgeable about the ancient great emperors," the master replied. "Back then, the collapse of the heavenly path already put the world through tribulations. I am sure that you were a victim too. Since you already reached this cultivation state, Why are you repeating it? The human ancestor did not answer. Instead, he said, Why did you not die? All the gods had died under the heavenly path. The Time Walker had also been a super great emperor. How come he had not died and still lived until today's world? I was trapped in time and survived with luck, the master said. Since you could also become the path and return today, why are you taking the other side? The human ancestor's voice was cold and carried a threatening feeling. After the heavenly path collapsed, the world experienced tribulations of doomsday. After countless years, it is time for a new era. And it is not the era you want, the master continued to say. Everyone could hear their conversation clearly. They could even feel the destructive windstorm that the human ancestor released. But it could not threaten them. That force seemed to be existing in a different dimension than them. Master has a deeper understanding of time than me, Futian thought inside. If he were to defeat the human ancestor, he would have to become the path. His father had become the path of the void, but still could not kill the human ancestor. Master seemed to have become the path now too. Then how should he become the path? Young master, a voice said. The string emperor walked towards Futian. Continue reading, on MYB0X and 0VEL, Lady Qin Lady Shu. Futian looked at the two. The string emperor seemed to have something to say to him. Actually, your mother knew back then that if she wanted to kill the human ancestor, she could only be like him. But if you become the path, you will no longer be yourself. You will only be the path. Lady Qin looked at Futian. She seemed to be pained as she spoke. Futian understood instantly. Back then, the 8 legions under the heavenly path controlled the law of the world. But the heavenly path was only the law. It did not have a true form. The human ancestor was the same. After he became the path, he no longer truly existed. Only his consciousness existed. After his mother became the heavenly path, she disappeared and stopped existing. So if he became the path, young master, with your current cultivation, you might be able to reach the supreme level even without becoming the path, and surpass the human ancestor. The string emperor continued to say, you already created the heavenly path world, and you're practically undying and immortal. You can travel across universes, leave here and cultivate in another world. You can return and kill the human ancestor in the future. Futian seemed to understand something from her words and asked, did father know this too? The string emperor's eyes dulled, and then she nodded. Your father was like your mother, the string emperor said. They both had very resolute beliefs. They wanted to return to the glory of the ancient era, and let everyone have an unrestricted cultivation world. They had worked hard for that too. But after losing your mother, you were the only one that your father had. Thus he always felt that he owed you. As long as there is a shred of hope, he would not want you to sacrifice yourself for this ideal. So he chose to use himself as a gambling chip? Futian looked up to the dome of the sky and said, because of me, his resolute faith started swaying. Perhaps that is the only time he swayed, the string emperor said. He hoped you could live. Naturally, Futian understood. If he lived to leave in defeat from today's battle, the world would undergo tribulations and suffer world-ending disasters. Even so, Donghuang the Great had chosen to keep it from him, not telling him. Perhaps, this was Donghuang the Great's selfishness as a father. Futian lowered his head and looked down. His eyes seemed to penetrate the vast world. He saw the tribulations of the human realm and the heaven realm. All of the 7 realms were going through tribulations. And this was only the beginning. If the human ancestor ruled over the world, he would destroy everything, upend everything. He wanted to create a world of gods, but they had to be gods that he controlled. He wanted to become the absolute ruler. I know what to do now, Futian said. He raised his head and looked toward the human ancestor with extremely resolute eyes. Even if this battle were not for the masses, it would be for his grandfather whom he had never met, his mother who had died to give birth to him, his father Donghuang the Great, the Devil Emperor, and others. He could not let the human ancestor remain in this world. He could bring the people around him and escape freely, leaving this world. But who would take revenge for all this? Countless people from the 6 legions had died in this battle, including those from the Ziwei Imperial Palace, and those under the Heavenly Mandate Academy, who would take revenge for their lives. These people had fought for their faith. Some had also fought for him. He was their faith. Countless eyes fell upon Yi Futian's body. Hua Jie Yu Gu Donglu Yu Wuchen. All of these familiar faces. They had heard the previous conversation and knew what was going to happen. But no one spoke. No one was qualified to decide for Yi Futian. This was his destiny. Turning around, Yi Futian did not meet those pairs of eyes. He was afraid that he would hesitate. With one thought, his body vanished from the spot and left this place. Seeing him leave, this part of the heavens was deathly silent. Even if I become the path, I will still exist, won't I? A voice sounded, landing in everyone's ears. It was comforting them all. This voice penetrated their hearts, and tears appeared in many people's eyes. Dong Huang Diyuan stood on the side and looked toward the disappeared figure. There were tears in her pretty eyes. Her second father had died in battle too. She had learned of Yi Futian from a very young age, and she had met Yi Futian when she was 16 years old. Even though Yi Futian did not know her identity, he had always existed in her life. Was everyone in her life going to leave her? Diyuan. The string emperor and book deity walked to Dong Huang Diyuan's side, comforting her softly. To them, Dong Huang Diyuan was also their child, just like Yi Futian. The strong figures in the Devil Imperial Palace of the Devil World saw the figure that had floated over and felt immense pain in their hearts. The strong figures in the Devil Imperial Palace of the Devil World saw the figure that had floated over and felt immense pain in their hearts. Your Majesty, they called out, only to hear the Devil Emperor say, from today on, Yu Sheng will inherit the position of the Devil World's Devil Emperor. All strong figures of the Devil World must obey the orders of the new Emperor. The solemn voice resonated throughout the dome of the sky. All the devil cultivators of the Devil World knelt onto the ground and cried out loudly, Your Majesty, the Devil Emperor. The Devil Emperor looked at all those figures. Then he turned around and walked toward the Devil Abyss. His backside was filled with bleakness. After entering the Devil Abyss, he went straight to the center of the Devil Abyss. He had been carrying the responsibility of the Devil Abyss for all these years, and today, he could finally be freed. His body turned illusory, but it also expanded, becoming larger and larger. The boundlessly huge figure melded into the Devil Abyss, becoming one with the tribulations of the Devil Abyss. Yu Sheng, who was currently cultivating in the Devil Abyss, seemed to sense something. His dark eyes opened. Then Yu Sheng saw the entire Devil Abyss seemed to transform into a face, the face of the Devil Emperor. Yu Sheng! The Devil Emperor's voice traveled into his mind. Back then, the Devil Abyss had been a force equal to the heavenly path. Similarly, it also contains its own consciousness. However, it lost in the right against the heavenly path and was reduced to a prison. It nurtured the demonic lord and helped the Devil Abyss fight against the heavenly path. Countless years have passed, and I am still unable to control the power of the Devil Abyss. You absorbed the intent of the demonic lord and can already resonate with the Devil Abyss. Today I will help you. After melding into the Devil Abyss, I will become a shred of the Devil Abyss's consciousness. I hope you can control the Devil Abyss, just like the demonic lord, and help the people of the Devil World to stop suffering the hardships of the Devil Abyss. Instead, they can use it for their cultivation. Hearing the Devil Emperor's words, Yu Sheng's expression suddenly changed. I can control the Devil Abyss without you, he said. There is no time, the Devil Emperor said. As he spoke, his body became more and more illusory, as if it could disappear at any moment. Uncle, Yu Sheng cried, standing up. I do not agree. When he spoke, the entire Devil Abyss trembled, his voice resounding throughout. This is my destiny. For countless years, I have always been enduring the pain of the Devil Abyss, and it's time for me to be freed, the Devil Emperor said. Yu Sheng, I have never pleaded to anyone in my life, but I must ask something of you. After the heavenly path had collapsed back then, it became known as the Void Realm. And now, he had returned to this land. To Yi Futian, the original realm was his homeland. Since he would become the path, he naturally chose his homeland. The space was empty, and the void was endless. He was the only person here. Yi Futian seemed even more lonely in the darkness. I'm sorry. Many figures appeared in Yi Futian's mind, and then he closed his eyes. The micro-world in his body started collapsing and caving in like crazy, transforming into a chaotic world. Yi Futian's consciousness entered it, combining with the world of chaos. Boom! With a loud boom, his physical body exploded into pieces. Many beams of light appeared in the endless darkness. These countless beams of light radiated out crazily, covering the darkness. In an instant, the light illuminated the entire mass of darkness and radiated out to the entire universe. The cultivators of the various continents and segmentums of the original realm all looked up to the sky. They saw a beam of light. In the faraway horizon, that beam of light illuminated the sky, shocking all of the cultivators. What had happened? The cultivators on all the continents stopped cultivating and walked out of their rooms. Countless people traveled through the air, gazing toward the dome of the heavens. They seemed to see a tree growing wildly in the universe enveloped in light. The tree seemed to be the tree of the universe, the tree of the world, growing between heaven and earth. The cultivators of the various continents suddenly felt something blinding. They raised their arms to cover their eyes. It was as if a formless beam of light swept over their bodies. They sensed the aura of the world, and it seemed that everything had changed, but they could not pinpoint what exactly was different. The tree in the universe gradually became illusory, as if it was fusing into the world, transforming into part of the universe. The former God's Ruins continent had become vibrant and full of life. There were many cultivators of the Runhuang Plain here. When they sensed the changes of the world, their hearts started pounding furiously. At that moment, they all looked up to the sky and bowed. Was this a miracle? Even a god or someone of the great emperor plane would not be able to do this, right? Unless it was a supreme figure who completed the path of the original realm today and would now have a complete law of the great path. Who was doing all of this? The people of the original realm gradually realized the changes of the world too. The people of the original realm gradually realized the changes of the world too. Meanwhile, Yi Futian perceived all of this. Of course, he no longer had a solid shape. After becoming the path, he had no physical body, no cultivation plane, no life or death. He could truly sense the path now. He was the path. Everything in the world was him. He breathed with the universe. Every beam of light and every gust of wind were his breaths. He perceived all the beings and saw their surprise and joy. Quietly feeling all of this, Yi Futian gradually understood why he must become the path. After becoming the path, he became one with the heavens and one with the universe. Every strand of qi flowing through the universe was him and the path. Yi Futian sensed Qingzhou City. The Qingzhou City that had been hidden before reappeared now. A breeze blew by. Yi Futian seemed to have come to Qingzhou City. With a thought, a tree appeared beside Qingzhou Academy. It was full of vitality and had spirituality. If he were still defeated, this tree would be the trace he left behind. After that, Yi Futian continued to feel for everything in becoming the path. Time passed bit by bit. The human realm, human ancestor, and entire heaven realm were trapped. They were still trapped in time by his master. In the human realm, the human ancestor continued to absorb all the energy in the world, refining the human realm more completely. Even the Time Walker could not hold him back for too long. At that time, the law of the great path in the human realm seemed to have melded into time, slowly homogenizing. At the same time, a voice traveled from within. Walker, you and I are both ancient great emperors. Why must we fight? You cannot hold me back for long. Why don't you rule this world with me? Your fate has long been decided, Master said. What do you mean? The human ancestor said. Please reading, on MYB0XN novel. Come to be annihilated or be swallowed, Master replied. I never believe in destiny or gods. I only believe in myself. The human ancestor's voice was frigid. This is not destiny. It was what time told me. Do not forget who I am, Master said quietly. His voice was calm. He was the Time Walker. The human ancestor suddenly lost his temper. The aggressive law of the great path hit against the time. You cannot stop me, the human ancestor said coldly. His aura spread toward the outside world. Right then, beams of tribulation light seeped into the space passageway between the devil world and human realm, entering the human realm. The human ancestor sensed the situation on that side. Then countless beams of red light surged in from that direction, continuously entering the human realm. They were tribulation forces of the apocalypse. In a concise time, endless blood-red tribulation light appeared in every corner of the human realm, rushing toward the heavenly path. Crack! The apocalyptic attack rained down, and the human realm shook. The power of the devil abyss. Devil Emperor? The human ancestor said coldly. Even if he had control of the devil abyss, this was still suicide. The human ancestor's mind twitched, and then countless beams of destructive light also rained down, countering the tribulations of the devil abyss. The entire human realm instantly transformed into a hellish world. All of the cities on the continents were filled with tribulation light. Yu Sheng's figure appeared in the human realm. He was shrouded with limitless tribulation light, hefting the divine battle-axe of creation. The battle-axe was wrapped in tribulation light, and his body was thousands of meters tall. He loomed over the world and hacked down at the path that the human ancestor had become with his battle-axe. The battle-axe split apart the sky. The heavens were hacked apart, turning into two halves. But at the same time, a beam of destructive light dropped down, landing in the area that Yu Sheng was in. It made Yu Sheng's spirit soul shake viciously, as if it was about to disassemble. The battle shockwaves of the devil world and human realm were so horrifying that even Yi Futian, who had become the original realm heavenly path, could feel them. Yi Futian was still meditating, but he understood that he had to attack now. It would be impossible for Yu Sheng to defeat the human ancestor. Just as Yi Futian had predicted, Yu Sheng had come to fight in the human realm battlefield with the power of the devil abyss, but he still could not destroy the human ancestor. When Yu Sheng attacked with the divine battle-axe of creation, countless pairs of eyes seemed to appear in the heavens. Each pair of eyes stared at Yu Sheng, locking onto him. Yu Sheng felt time and space become disorderly. He continued to hack down with his divine battle-axe of creation, carrying the devil abyss and sweeping up to the heavens. However, a huge god appeared in the heavens. He sent out a punch, and the strength of an entire world was gathered on this fist. There were no additional movements, but this one punch could shatter a part of the sky. This punch passed through the world, and sent Yu Sheng's body flying back into the passageway in devil world. Yu Sheng's body was about to explode, but he had formed the super demonic form, which was known as an undying form, and that was why he did not break apart. Even so, he still spat out a mouthful of blood. He was badly hurt. However, how many people in the world could survive a hit from the human ancestor? The evil emperor, one of the former 6 emperors, could not do it. The devil emperor could not do it quickly either. And Donghuang the Great had become the path to fight but still died. If the devil world wants to be wiped out, I can help you, the human ancestor announced. Mr. Time had left when Yu Sheng attacked, so the human ancestor was no longer restrained. However, while he was nurturing his strength, a loud explosive noise suddenly appeared. The entire human realm seemed to be collapsing and breaking apart continuously. A supreme and peerless path was invading, wanting to destroy the entire human realm. The heavens of the human realm were being destroyed madly. The human ancestor knew that Yi Futian had become the path, and had returned to fight again. Yi Futian had become even more dangerous now. He was even stronger, and had advanced further than his mother had. Countless beams of light from the path penetrated the human realm, destroying all existences, destroying everything in this dimension. The human ancestor's face appeared. His cold eyes stared at that side. With a thought, countless beams of destructive light also shot out murderously, and clashed against the other lights. The world started cracking apart instantly. The human realm shook violently, and many frightening spatial cracks appeared. Earthquakes and tsunamis burst forth on countless cultivation continents, and the tribulations of the apocalypse rained down. 2 faces appeared in the heavens, Yi Futian and the human ancestors' faces respectively. The entire human realm was collapsing and caving in crazily. That was the force that Yi Futian brought over. The power that could annihilate time wanted to utterly destroy the heavenly path. Do you think you can destroy me like this? The human ancestor stared at Yi Futian and said, I came from the ancient times and had transformed into the heavenly path many years ago. I am an undying god. The human realm has collapsed, and you will die too, Yi Futian replied. Really? My strength comes from the entire human realm. The human ancestor's voice was cold. After he spoke, the collapse of space slowed down, and the entire world seemed to coagulate. A frightening world force was blocking everything. Kaboom! Right then, Yu Sheng came again with the power of the Devil Abyss. Carried by the Devil Abyss, he hacked down at the human realm. The tribulations of the Devil Abyss instantly swept through the human realm, causing cracks to appear in the coagulated world. The human ancestor's eyes were icy. He took a deep breath, and abruptly, every being and item in the human realm turned into energy that he could use. Annihilate, the human ancestor uttered. As soon as he spoke, an immense quaking swept forth, and all forces destroying the time were extinguished. He carried the energy of the entire human realm and unleashed destructive shockwaves. Yi Futian felt that he was undergoing a powerful attack. The path that he had become was shaken apart and destroyed. This god that had existed since the era of the heavenly path's collapse was frighteningly strong. However, Yi Futian was also undying nowadays. He had returned as the path, and was practically an endless and undefeatable existence like the human ancestor. At this time, a beam of black light suddenly projected out of the human realm. It was an extreme black. It seemed as if it came from hell. This beam of black light hovered above the human realm. On the battlefield, the human ancestor seemed to sense the energy contained within and glanced at it. It was a black lotus. Strands of chi emanated from the black lotus, transforming into a pitch-black figure. It was a young girl. When she appeared, she chanted words, and the surrounding world instantly darkened. It kept expanding, extending throughout the vast space until the entire world transformed into darkness. It was like it had been cursed. Qingyao. Yi Futian did not expect that Yi Qingyao would come to the battlefield. Had she already inherited the power of darkness? Plus, the power of death that Yi Qingyao carried was no longer the simple divine power of death. It was absolute darkness and destruction. She had belonged to darkness and destruction since birth, standing opposite of life and creation. The human ancestor sent down a beam of destructive light towards Yi Qingyao. But when it approached her, the destructive light actually faded and was extinguished. With Yi Qingyao's body as the center, everything in the world fell into silence, returning to stillness. There was no vitality, and everything was about to be annihilated. She walked forward. Everything in her path sank into absolute deathly stillness. She was going to bring death to the entire world. The human ancestor discovered that under the patch of death, he was no longer able to borrow energy from the world. Everything returned to stillness. There was no energy that he could borrow. Boom! Countless beams of apocalyptic light shot down murderously at Yi Qingyao. But a similarly frightening intent of the path swept forth. It shrouded his power. Yi Futian had acted, causing the human ancestor's attack to be shattered and destroyed. Soon, Yi Qingyao had walked to every corner of the world, spreading death across the vast world. Every place that had life was now under death and stillness. The tribulations of the Devil Abyss pierced into the heavenly path, dyeing the entire dome of the sky blood-red. Yi Futian's mind twitched. The sky continued to collapse and shatter. The scene right now was like how the heavenly path had collapsed in the war of the heavenly path in the ancient times. How can you surpass death? The human ancestor's voice filled the void. He was speaking to Yi Qingyao. I use darkness as my sacrifice and surpass darkness. Human ancestor, you bestowed this upon me, a voice said. It was not Yi Qingyao's figure, but the Dark Sovereign. She had sacrificed herself. Bastard! The human ancestor bellowed. Clearly he also sensed the danger. You planned everything well. But today, it will come to nothing. Today, you will be destroyed. The Dark Sovereign's voice rang out once again. Yi Futian descended madly with the path, causing the path created by the human ancestor to continue crumbling. The human ancestor's face in the heavens twisted. He finally realized that he was not truly undying or undefeatable. He could also die. If the heavenly path shattered, and everything returned to stillness, then he would also stop existing. The ancient heavenly path had collapsed in the battle of the gods. Naturally, he could as well. Yi Futian, I will rule the human realm, and you will rule the original realm. We will not interfere with each other. The human ancestor's voice streamed out. He seemed to be compromising, wanting to take a step back. Yi Futian ignored him. He was still destroying all of this. I control the most primitive power of the world, and I'm extremely familiar with the nature of power. If you continue like this, you will accompany me in death, the human ancestor continued to say. But Yi Futian's group was still unmoved. The three of them did not stop. They continued to destroy everything crazily. The human ancestor felt his power weakening continuously. His face became more twisted. He was seemingly struggling. Yi Futian, have you thought about the consequences if we all die here today? The human ancestor continued to threaten them. You must disappear, an unrefusable voice replied. Suddenly, the human ancestor started laughing uproariously. I plotted for so many years and thought it was just a game. I did not expect to be defeated today. But in this case, let everything be destroyed. To nothingness. The instant the human ancestor spoke, Yi Futian suddenly felt extreme danger. All the remaining energy of the human realm exploded simultaneously in that instant. He could feel that when that energy exploded, everything would return to nothingness. It seemed to be the final state of his father's ultimate divine power. The human ancestor's face closed his eyes. Everything in his surroundings also turned to nothingness. That moment, he seemed to return to countless years ago when his mother and father were still there, raising him, and his master was teaching him cultivation. All of this had been destroyed in the War of the Gods. He had lost everything. And now, everything was finally ending. Without Yi Futian having to attack again, everything in the world was reduced to nothingness. The human ancestor controlled the heavenly path. He comprehended creation, and also comprehended destruction. Once he unleashed to nothingness, everything would transform into nothingness, including himself. Yi Futian felt that his path was scattering wildly too, turning into the void. He could not help but feel fear. Yu Sheng and Qingyao. The power of time enveloped the entire world, but it was useless. When everything was transformed into the void, there would be no time. Yi Futian used all of the intent from his path to envelope Yu Sheng and Yi Qingyao. In the span of a thought, he made his last-ditch effort. The next moment, his consciousness was also reduced to nothingness. The entire human realm disappeared. Under the human ancestor's ultimate destructive force, everything was turned into the void. Everything in the human realm no longer existed. It was as if this universe and world had never existed. A long while later, a group of figures suddenly traveled through the air of this dead world, appearing in the void. Strands of qi flowed from their bodies and gathered together, forming the human ancestor's figure. I will return, the formed body said coldly. Yi Futian and the others should have gotten destroyed too, right? Only a sleeping consciousness should remain from the heavenly path of the original realm too. Who would be able to stop him in the future? You will not return again. Another voice streamed out at this time. The human ancestor's expression changed in shock. Then he saw a handsome and extraordinary figure appear before him. It's you, the human ancestor said coldly, staring at that figure. He watched as the youth extended a hand. Instantly, a horrifying windstorm vortex appeared. The human ancestor and those figures were all swallowed into the windstorm. Watching the human ancestor disappear, the youth raised his head and glanced at the endless void. Avenging you has been my long-term obsession, he murmured to himself. Today I returned it all to you. No matter what, everyone in the world was filled with gratitude toward Yi Futian. The battle from 1 year ago was like an apocalyptic battle. The beings of the world had been turned to ashes, and countless cultivators had died. If Yi Futian had not stopped this, the human ancestor might have truly destroyed the world. Yi Futian's sacrifice for this had been to become the path and protect the present world. One could say that Yi Futian had created this new world. Thus, the Heaven Court, Donghuang Imperial Palace, and other forces called the present world the Futian era. Last year had been the first year of the Futian calendar. The top 7 forces of the world all believed in Yi Futian, and the people of the world were also filled with gratitude, so naturally no one objected. They all accepted it. The current era was a new age. The period after the heavenly path had collapsed became known as the Age of Forbidden Gods. With Yi Futian as the heavenly path, it was a new era, and the Age of Gods had reappeared. Within 1 year, the various realms gradually recovered their liveliness. Under Donghuang Diyuan's rule, order returned to the Divine Prefecture. The 18 domains of the Divine Prefecture all had new rulers. Many of them were strong figures of the great emperor plane. Of course, those who once had conflicts with Yi Futian had all stepped down from power. The great emperors of the ancient god clans who had not died in battle had all been dethroned by Donghuang Diyuan. 2 huge statues stood atop the steps of the Donghuang Imperial Palace, rising into the sky. One was Donghuang the Great. The other was Emperor Yi Qing. The twin emperors were now guarding the Donghuang Imperial Palace as statues. Today, a few gods came to visit Donghuang Diyuan, but they were met with a closed door and did not get to see her. Donghuang Diyuan was rectifying and revitalizing the Divine Prefecture. She had given the order to make the martial arts of the Divine Prefecture prosper. After working on all of this, she rarely appeared in public. At the moment, Donghuang Diyuan was in the Great Emperor courtyard of the Imperial Palace. She sat quietly and listened while an elder sat on the ground beside her. He was telling her stories from many years ago. That boy was both smart and mischievous back then. The older disciples all protected their little brother. Thinking back now, that must have been the best times, the elder said with a smile. He was Mr. Du, whom Donghuang Diyuan had brought back to the Divine Prefecture that year. Then what? What else happened? Donghuang Diyuan asked. Your Majesty, would you still like to hear? Mr. Du asked. The Majesty in question was sitting on the ground, her eyes flashing brightly. She seemed to be curious about these ancient stories, wanting to know everything. She did not seem like the current ruler of the Divine Prefecture at all. Yes, Donghuang Diyuan nodded thoughtfully. Sure. Mr. Du chuckled and continued telling those ancient stories. The main character of the stories was an 18-year-old boy. That era seemed to be long, long ago. Outside the original realm, in the void, a cultivator suddenly came to a stop. Divine light flashed on his body, and he had a shocking aura. This was a super great emperor from ancient times. Should have lost her, right? He thought inside, cold light flashing past his eyes. But right at that moment, a dark figure appeared out of thin air. The void became even darker. A young girl's face appeared. There were no emotions in her eyes, as if she was one of the living dead. Seeing her appearance, the great emperor's expression changed in shock. Everything is in the past, he said. Back then, the human ancestor had controlled everyone, and we were forced to participate in the battle. Why must you kill us all? The girl reached out her hand. An illusory black lotus shrouded over the other's body. In an instant, everything returned to deathly stillness. All the vitality of the great emperor from the ancient times evaporated instantly, returning to stillness. He fell quiet, and then was swallowed by the black lotus until he turned to nothing. After killing him, the girl's figure disappeared into the darkness. In the battle back then, Yi Futian had sent her, and Yu Sheng out of the human realm. The human realm had been destroyed, and after that, Yi Qingyao and Yu Sheng started on the path of revenge. They killed practically all of the ancient great emperors who had participated in the battle. But even so, Yi Qingyao was still not satisfied. She wanted everyone to pay. Thus, those who had escaped would forever face her pursuit. The Heavenly Mandate Court controlled the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, and was situated in the original Heavenly Mandate realm. The Heavenly Mandate Academy was under their control. This was where the Heavenly Mandate Court trained their juniors and disciples. In addition, the current 3,000 realms of the Great Path was nothing like before. They would evolve soon. There was no reason other than the cultivators who had followed Yi Futian out before had all returned. Many of these people were strong figures in the Great Emperor Plane. Now that they returned to their homelands, they did not only return to cultivate. They were also responsible for teaching the path. Yi Futian becoming the path had created this new era, so they would also contribute their strength to the current world. Lord Taixian, Emperor Nan, and many others returned to their original places to teach the path. In addition, Do Zhao, Xiaomuyu, and the others cultivated in the 9 supreme imperial realms, while taking up the position of elder in the heavenly mandate court. It went without saying how powerful the 9 supreme imperial realms were. At the same time, in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, Emperor Xia had also returned to Emperor Xia's realm, continuing to sit on the royal throne. He had wanted to pass it on to Xia Qingyuan, but Xia Qingyuan disagreed. Thus, a legend began to spread in Emperor Xia's realm that the princess of the realm was now a strong figure of the great emperor plane. Over this past year, it was said that Xia Qingyuan had saved many people. She was the god of life and could revive people from death. In addition, there was another sword emperor in Lihan Palace, sword master of Lihan. One could imagine how strong Emperor Xia's realm was. Furthermore, Emperor Xia's realm also had the 9-state continent. According to legends, that was the homeland of Yi Futian, the master of the heavenly path. Do Zhan and his group also returned to their homeland and rebuilt the ultimate holy palace, continuing to teach the path in the 9-state continent. Even the sword saint returned to the eastern barren territory, returning to the cottage of Book Mountain. 4th and 5th brothers returned as well, accompanying the first brother. 2nd sister and 3rd brother stayed in the Heavenly Mandate Academy to govern the entire divine prefecture, so they were unable to return. They could only visit occasionally. The sounds of book recitation streamed out of a classroom in Qingzhou Academy of Qingzhou City. The youths were reading and writing in one of the classrooms. There was an extremely handsome middle-aged man at the lecture podium, though he already had white hair. The lesson ends here, the man said now with a smile. Yes, teacher. The youth stood up and bowed. Then a mischievous boy asked the middle-aged man, Teacher, is the person in the legend you told us real? If I cultivate to the pinnacle, can I really move mountains and fill the seas? Not only will you be able to move mountains and fill seas, you can even become the sun and moon, the man said with a smile. Teacher, have you seen it before? Someone asked. Of course. One of my former students could do it, the man said, chuckling. His one eye could turn into the sun, and the other could turn into the moon. He could spit out divine thunder from his mouth. Hearing his words, uproarious laughter filled the classroom. Teacher, you're so imaginative, a youth said while laughing loudly. His voice was innocent. You're bragging too much. Then teacher, where is your student now? A girl asked innocently. He is omnipresent, the middle-aged man answered. The younglings obviously did not believe them. Even though their teacher was very attractive, his words were too exaggerated. Sister Ninyu, someone called to the figure outside the school. Huan Yinyu smiled and nodded. The children all swarmed over, surrounding Huan Yinyu. Hua Fenglu chuckled, and then left the room alone. There was a simple residence beside Qingzhou Academy. Rich vegetation grew beside it. One of the trees was more eye-catching than the rest. According to the people of the academy, no one had noticed this tree before. It had not been attractive at all. But one day, it suddenly grew into a tree that reached for the sky. It was extremely leafy, and when a breeze blew past, the branches and leaves swayed as if they were alive. At the moment, graceful music streamed out from under the tree. It was lovely to the ears, and every note pulsed, seeming to be full of emotion. The woman playing the instrument looked perfect and flawless. She seemed to be otherworldly, like one of the 9 heavenly maidens, not mundane. Right then, another woman came out of the academy and came to this side. It was Huan Yinyu. She stopped and sat on a stone, supporting her chin with both hands. She listened to the music quietly. As if entering that beautiful artistic conception, a gorgeous image appeared in her mind. In the image, there was a peaceful little city, a beautiful lake, and a small boat swaying in the lake. A young man and woman were on the boat, hugging one another. Moonlight showered down, illuminating their bodies like a beautiful painting. A long while later, the music gradually stopped. The performer, Hua Jiyu, had a faint smile in her eyes. Her smile was extremely brilliant, as if she had put herself in the artistic conception. 1 year ago, the String Emperor had wanted her to rule over the Heaven Court, but Hua Jiyu left instead. She returned to her homeland, Qingzhou City. Their most beautiful memories were here. After arriving in Qingzhou City, Hua Jiyu naturally discovered this large tree. She could sense Yi Futian's aura from this tree. She knew that Yi Futian must have come back here too. Ever since then, Hua Jiyu built a yard here and would play her qin under the tree every day, living a life of seclusion and peace from the world. Sister, Hua Ningyu called with a smile. Do you think brother-in-law can hear your playing? Of course he can. Hua Jiyu nodded seriously. Then he must be very happy too, knowing that you think of him so much every day, Hua Ningyu said, laughing. Hua Jiyu chuckled and said, Ningyu, you do not have to visit me every day. I feel peace here, and I am content. She did not feel lonely while playing her instrument here every day, because she knew that Yi Futian was here. Okay, I got it. Hua Ningyu nodded with a smile. She visited every day because naturally, she was worried that Hua Jiyu would feel lonely or sad. Even though she also felt sad, she never revealed it before her sister. She hoped that her sister could be happy. Please reading on MyBoX Innovel.com. After Hua Ningyu left, Hua Jiyu continued to play her music. The pulsing music notes were like songs from heaven. They streamed into the tree, and the leaves on the tree rustled, seeming to dance with the music. But right then the music came to an abrupt stop. Hua Jiyu looked to the front and saw a figure float over before her. It was also a beautiful woman. She landed softly, her eyes staring at the tree. She walked forward slowly, moving step by step toward that tree. When she stood under the tree, there were already translucent teardrops in the corner of her eyes. The woman reached out and touched the tree trunk. Is it you? She asked, voice trembling. Hua Jiyu watched this all quietly. Her gaze fell upon the woman who had arrived, and sadness also rose in her heart. Qingyuan, it's him, she whispered. She naturally knew the feelings Xia Qingyuan had towards Yi Futian. Right now, she could feel that Xia Qingyuan's emotions were the same as hers. Hearing Hua Jiyu's voice, Xia Qingyuan's tears started streaming down uncontrollably. Her hands trembled slightly as she seemed to caress Yi Futian's body. Xia Qingyuan had been hiding her emotions and had never shown her feelings before Yi Futian. She had always loved him wordlessly and hid it in her heart. She could accept all of this too. Once, she had thought that when all of this ended, she would return to Emperor Xiao's realm. She would be satisfied to watch Yi Futian reach the top, and for all to be well. However, when everything ended, it had not been what she had imagined. Yi Futian had disappeared. Everyone said that he had died. Xia Qingyuan could not accept this result. This past year, she returned to Emperor Xiao's realm and performed acts of kindness, saving people, but it was a way to numb herself. She was like a soulless body, only wanting to spread Yi Futian's faith in this way. Not long ago, she wanted to come to visit Yi Futian's homeland, see where he had grown up, and follow in his footsteps. However, after arriving here, she sensed a familiar aura. Thus, she came and saw the tree before her eyes. At this moment, she finally lost control of all the feelings built up in her heart. They burst out violently. She had kept these emotions hidden for years, not only 1 or 2 days. When did he come here? Xia Qingyuan asked Hua Jiyu, tears streaming from her eyes. He was here when I returned, Hua Jiyu answered. She walked to Xia Qingyuan's side and hugged her gently. Xia Qingyuan did not recoil. She leaned into Hua Jiyu's shoulder and cried. Only they could understand this kind of emotion. At this moment their feelings were the same. Has he appeared before? Xia Qingyuan asked softly. Hua Jiyu shook her head. She worked hard to control her emotions as she smiled and said gently, Qingyuan, we can accompany him here together. Xia Qingyuan looked at the big tree and asked, Can I? Of course. Hua Jiyu nodded. Jiyu. Xia Qingyuan gazed at Hua Jiyu and said, I am willing to become a tree and accompany him here. I can withstand the wind and rain with him until he returns. And if does not return? Hua Jiyu asked, voice trembling. Then I will accompany him forever. Xia Qingyuan's teary eyes were so resolute. Unshed tears also appeared in Hua Jiyu's eyes. She could no longer hold back. Looking at Xia Qingyuan's eyes, tears flowed out, and she nodded, saying, "Okay. Thank you." A faint smile appeared on Xia Qingyuan's lips. Then she walked to the tree's side. Her body gradually dissolved, transforming into a tree of life to keep Yi Futian company. The branches of this tree of life kept swaying without stop, going toward the tree on its side. They intertwined, accompanying one another. Rustles came from the tree of life, seeming to cheer or sing. There was no sadness, only company. She was willing to become a tree and stay by his side, accompanying him as they experienced the wind and rain, experiencing the blazing sun and lightning. She felt no regrets at all. She could not stay by his side in life, but now, they could be companions for eternity. Was this not beautiful? Seeing all of this, tears flowed from Hua Jiyu's face endlessly. A moment later, she sat down to play her instrument. The music notes pulsed as she began playing music again. But this time, the music was filled with sadness, throwing one into depression. Ever since Yi Futian became the path, the 7 super forces governed the world's law. Everything seemed to be at peace, but there were still some storms and waves. Especially for the 7 great forces, they knew that the world still faced threats. Nowadays, as the rulers of the world law, they were responsible for safeguarding it and protecting the current world for Yi Futian. The city of the ruins was a free city. It was one of the wealthiest main cities in the universe, filled with strong figures. The 7 super forces established a mutual stronghold here, where they could arrive at any time. It was the former Yi Imperial Palace. There was a huge battle happening in the sky outside the Yi Imperial Palace, above the city of the ruins. 2 super strong figures were facing one another in the sky. There were many top figures behind them too. They were all in the Great Emperor Plane. One of them had an unrestrained aura. It was Gu Donglu. On the other hand, across from him was an elder in a beastly robe. He had very thick hair and a burlesque figure. He was short but was filled with an incomparably aggressive aura, like a wild beast. This was a great emperor of a beast clan. Everything is unstoppable now. You should follow the heavens' orders, so that you can be spared. If you continue your stubborn resistance, you will only meet death. The elder's voice was like a grand bell, reverberating through the heavens and shaking the sky. Countless people in the city of the ruins below looked up at the vast sky, feeling shaken inside. This elder was a super strong figure who had come to the original realm. 2 ancient emperors from the Yi Imperial Palace had died in his hands. This was why Gu Donglu, ruler of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, had come personally. Gu Donglu did not speak. 2 beams of frightening divine light shot out of his eyes, transforming into battle swords that stabbed toward the elder. "Humph," the elder huffed coldly. Instantly, a huge demonic image appeared before his body. A horrifying demonic dragon walked out of it and ripped the sword apart. The elder's gaze swept towards Gu Donglu. Many demonic images appeared in the sky. In a moment, demonic chi shook the heavens. These demonic images contained true dragons, divine phoenixes, Kiran, Xuanwu Taotai, chaos, and demons. They shrouded the sky and revolved around the land. Violent chi shook the heavens. Even the gods' ruins continent that was extremely far away below could feel that overwhelming might, and the people's hearts shuddered uncontrollably. Who was that elder? He was like the ancestor of the demon beast world. Every demon god image released an aura at the level of a demon monarch. It was exceedingly horrifying. Gu Donglu glanced at him, and with a thought, a huge grinding disc matrix appeared with him as the center. It covered and blocked out the sun. There were immortal monsters and demon gods on this great matrix. Powerful divine might exploded from the matrix, seeming to have supreme divine power from ancient times. The elder furrowed his brows and uttered a sound from his lips. Instantly, great demons burst out of the demon god images. They shook the world and ripped apart the void. However, at the same time, immortal monsters and demon gods also burst out of Gu Donglu's divine prefecture matrix. Please reading on MYB Oxnovel. The great aggressive demons clashed violently, tearing apart each other's bodies. Some demon gods descended from the sky, killing everything. There were also immortal deities holding sharp swords who stabbed into the sky. Everything was getting destroyed and charging toward the elder. The elder extended his arms. They were filled with limitless strength. He swung his arms and sent out an attack. The fist intent transformed into the power of ancient demon gods, shaking the heavens. It flattened everything and crushed the immortal demons. Gu Donglu extended his hand, and instantly, countless runes appeared before the elder. There were only 9 words in these countless symbols: power, direction, harmony, healing, premonition, knowing, dimension, creation, and enlightenment. These 9 words became the path. Every rune contained immense divine power, as if Gu Donglio's silhouette was there. He lifted a finger, and instantly, the limitless ancient words shot towards the elder. The elder's fist intent shattered the heavens and blasted toward the words, causing them to disintegrate. However, the words kept growing stronger. They were endless, and forced the elder to keep retreating. Pow! Blood seeped out of the elder's fist, and his arm trembled. Finally, an ancient word dropped down and ripped apart his fist, passing through his arm. His body wanted to retreat, but countless words fell at the same time, penetrating his body. Every rune contained immense divine power. Countless beams of light penetrated him at the same time. The elder's body was annihilated at once, turning into dust. Gu Donglu scanned the other strong figures and said coldly, "All invaders will be killed without mercy." As soon as he finished speaking, the words started down again. Many of these comers were top figures, but they were all killed on the spot. The battle ended not long after, but Gu Donglio's eyes did not seem relaxed. Instead, he seemed graver. He knew that many strong figures from the outside were hiding in this world. In fact, super great emperors had started appearing among these people. The invading universe was very strong. If they invaded from all fronts one day, what would happen? It seemed that another horrible war would occur again. "Send someone to watch the entrance and report up at any commotion," Gu Donglu ordered. "Yes, Your Majesty," someone said, accepting the order. Gu Donglu led his group away. Heaven Realm, Heaven Court. 2 figures stood atop the heavenly palace, gazing into the distance. These 2 were the String Emperor and Book Deity, who were governing the Heaven Realm now. But even though they were the rulers of the Heaven Realm, they did not feel happy at all. Everyone they were familiar with had died. The princess had left them that year. Dong Huang the Great had been killed in battle, and their young master had gone too. It was like they had lost their emotional support. All they could do now was protect the new world that their young master had created. Kaboom! Right then, an extremely horrifying aura suddenly appeared above the Heaven Court. Who is it? Many figures traveled through the air and looked toward the sky above the Heaven Court with serious eyes. That horrifying aura shrouded the entire Heaven Court. The frightening might weighed down. The String Emperor and Book Deity's expressions were shocked, too, as they stared to that side. Who was coming to invade them? Boom! A beam of pitch-black divine light penetrated the Heaven Court directly, opening up an ancient path. Then a figure came out of it, hovering above the Heaven Court. This figure was extremely handsome. His eyes scanned the Heaven Court indifferently. Seeing him, many strong figures of the Heaven Court felt their hearts skip a beat. Many cultivators recognized this person. He was back. Yes, they had actually forgotten about him. He had not participated in that apocalyptic world. They did not know that even though he had not attended, he had appeared when the war ended. Me. He scanned the crowd and said, "What, you don't recognize me anymore?" Ji Wudao, the former heir of the Heaven Court, and known as the modern Heavenly Emperor, had left after losing to Yi Futian. Now he had returned to the Heaven Court. Great Skylords Black and White Almighty, the 4 Heavenly Kings, the 9 Star Lords, and many strong figures in the Heaven Court had once viewed Ji Wudao as their master. Now that they saw he had returned, they felt very troubled feelings. The expressions of the String Emperor and Book Deity changed as well. Ji Wudao's aura was now terrifying. He had been the princess's disciple, but he had not been willing to aid the young master. His talent and abilities were also very frightening. The chaotic heavenly swallowing method that he cultivated was especially horrifying. "Ji Wudao, why are you back?" the String Emperor asked. "Naturally, it is to take back what is mine," Ji Wudao answered. glancing at the String Emperor. What you had were all bestowed upon you by the princess, but you were too ambitious, so the later situation happened. The heaven realm was never yours, the String Emperor said, but Ji Wudao cut her off. A horrifying aura appeared in the dome of the sky. Looking at the String Emperor and Book Deity, he said, "Seeing as you were her maids before, I will allow you a respectful death." After he spoke, divine light descended from the sky and landed directly on the bodies of the String Emperor and Book Deity. Their divine powers erupted in an attempt to fight it off, but the gold divine light annihilated the space instantly. Their spirit souls scattered directly, and they died without being able to resist at all. The respectful death, in Ji Wudao's terms, was that he did not swallow them up. The strong figures of the heaven court saw Ji Wudao's aggression, and their expressions dropped. After returning, he had become even more terrifying. He was practically undefeatable. Ji Wudao looked down, and everyone in the heaven court became fearful. Then the great Skylords Black and White Almighty bowed, announcing loudly, "I pay my respects to the Heavenly Emperor. I pay my respects to the Heavenly Emperor." The strong figures of the heaven court all said, one after another. Their voices rang through the void. Many people had initially followed Ji Wudao. After all, the situation had changed, and Yi Futian had died. It was logical that the Heavenly Emperor's position would be returned to Ji Wudao. Ji Wudao had returned to the heaven court and killed the String Emperor and Book Deity, who had been ruling the heavenly realm. Afterward, he reorganized the forces of the heaven court, aggressively killing the people who were not willing to obey him. They had to choose to either follow him or die. In one night, the heaven court's master changed. Ji Wudao became the new master of the heavenly realm, snatching back the position of the heavenly emperor. The other forces naturally received the news too. When they learned that Ji Wudao had returned and taken the heavenly realm, all the forces were shaken up. Ji Wudao had already been extremely strong back then. He had once attacked the human realm, and was known as the monstrous figure of the world, equal to Yi Futian. Now that he had returned, he had killed the String Emperor and Book Deity easily. So he had definitely gotten stronger, but it was hard to guess what level he was at. "Your Majesty, all the top figures of the heavenly realm have arrived," Black Almighty said. With his hands behind his back, Ji Wudao gazed into the distance and said, "Those who died all contributed their strength to this world. They fought for their ideals, and did not surrender today either. Their families and friends will not be affected after their deaths." The strong figures behind him were shaken. With extreme fear, they lowered onto one knee and said, "We all followed your Majesty into war before. We always believed that the position of the Heavenly Emperor belonged to your Majesty." Ji Wudao said that those people did not surrender, and seemed to vaguely respect them. Meanwhile, they were the traitors who were now obeying Ji Wudao. "I know. I do not intend to blame you all," Ji Wudao said in response. However, Black and White Almighty knew why Ji Wudao was unwilling to approach the people who came to visit. Many of those people were not part of Ji Wudao's old forces. Instead, they had surrendered. Clearly, to Ji Wudao, these people did not have the spirit that cultivators should have. "I did not think that so many things happened after I left this world. The 7 realms encountered such tribulations," Ji Wudao murmured, looking into the distance. After the defeat in battle that year, he used the passageway to the outside world and left this universe, going towards another world. After he returned, he witnessed the ultimate battle. He also saw that the human ancestor still wanted to be reborn, and got swallowed by him. "Your ploy was correct, and your choice was correct too. He did well, much better than I had imagined," Ji Wudao said, looking up to the sky. Behind him, Black and White Almighty and the others all felt shocked, but they remained in their kneeling posture, and did not rise. The Ji Wudao that they knew was extremely arrogant and talented. He always saw himself as the future heavenly emperor, and wanted to inherit the intent of his master. What he never imagined was that none of this was for him. Instead, it was for Yi Futian. Thus he lost his mind. With Ji Wudao's arrogance and pride, he was unable to accept this. That was why everything that followed happened. But today, Ji Wudao actually admitted with his own words that her choice had been correct. He gave recognition to her choice and to Yi Futian. Naturally, Ji Wudao also realized by now that she indeed was not selfish. She chose Yi Futian to be her own descendant, because Yi Futian was the most suitable one. In the end, he had to become the path to do it all. In a way, her choosing him had led to his death. After knowing all of this, Ji Wudao did not feel as much hatred anymore. Please reading on MYB Calm. His mindset had become calmer and more aloof. He seemed to understand Yi Futian. However, he didn't cut everything off cleanly and left behind many problems, Ji Wudao continued to say. In that case, I will take over and complete everything after this. I will do better than him, and you will see it. Black and White Almighty felt speechless inside. Ji Wudao's obsession truly ran deep. All this time, he just wanted to complete her dying wish, and was incomparably respectful towards her. It had long been carved into his bones, carved into his soul. Until today, when she had already disappeared, he still wanted to receive her recognition. Why bother? Notify the other forces to meet me at the heavenly realm in 7 days. The heaven court of the heavenly realm should stand at the peak of the present world, standing above all the gods and rule everything in the world. Ji Wudao spoke calmly, but his voice was filled with boundless aggression. The people behind him naturally understood which forces he was talking about. Nowadays, the 7 forces ruled the world law together, and there was no hierarchy. But Ji Wudao had returned, and he wanted the heaven realm to stand at the top, becoming the absolute ruler. The other forces all had to come to bow down and submit to him. Yes, Your Majesty. The people behind him left after accepting the order. They knew what they had to do. 7 days later, the Divine Prefecture Donghuang Imperial Palace, Heavenly Mandate Academy, Spirit Mountain, and other places all received news that Ji Wudao ordered them to travel over in 7 days. They had to bow down to Ji Wudao and take him as their ruler. This news quickly spread through the cultivation world and became a hot topic among the cultivators. After Yi Futian fought against the human ancestor and died, the 7 forces governed the world law together. They did not expect Ji Wudao to appear and take the heaven realm back. Now he even let out the news, demanding the other forces to make obeisance. They had to view the heaven realm as the ruler of everything in the world. The power of this news was imaginable. It swept through the entire world with frightening force, spreading with the fastest speed. The catastrophe 1 year ago caused the world's information channels to be more connected. Now everyone knew about the current situation of the world. But those forces were all helping Yi Futian manage the world law. How could they submit to Ji Wudao? If they did not submit to him, what would happen? Would there be another large battle in the heaven realm 7 days later? Would another worldly catastrophe happen this time? Ji Wudao probably was not like the human ancestor. He only wanted to govern the world law. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. All of the cultivators in the world were paying attention to the heaven realm today. Meanwhile, in the heaven realm, countless powerful cultivators were gathering toward the continent where the heavenly court was located. That day, dazzling divine light flashed in the heaven realm. Outside the heavenly court, a group of powerful figures appeared. They were all in the great emperor plane. After that, more divine light flashed in different directions. The strong figures of the 6 great forces had all arrived. They had no choice but to come. Since Ji Wudao had returned, they were destined to have this battle. Frightening divine might enveloped the heavenly court. Brilliant divine light descended from the heavenly court. Then a mighty group of strong figures arrived and scanned the 6 great forces. A brilliant figure appeared above the heavenly palace, bathing under the light of the world. He was incredible. It was Ji Wudao. Have you all thought carefully? Ji Wudao stood in the sky and looked down at everything. He spoke to the strong figures of the 6 great forces, not caring at all that there were seniors like the Buddha among them. Of the rulers of the 6 great forces, only Yi Qingyao, ruler of the Dark Court, had not come. Everyone else had arrived. In Qingzhou City, Hua Jiyu did not know anything happening in the world. No one told her either, because they could not bear it. No one could bear to disturb her again. Graceful music continued to float above the serene Qingzhou Academy. sounding every day without stop. Hua Jiyu played the music quietly under the tree. She did not ask about the outside world, nor did anyone disturb her. She even put up a colorless realm barrier. This place belonged to her and the two trees. The two trees behind Hua Jiyu kept swaying extremely joyously, as if they understood the music. The two trees were now entangled with each other. The tree that Xiaqing Yuan had become was the tree of life. She kept pouring the power of life into the other tree. The days passed one by one. The vitality of Yi Futian's tree had become heavier, too. And it seemed to have a spirit now. When Hua Jiyu played, she could even hear the tree swaying. They were like pulsing music notes, a reply to her. Of course, this could also be Hua Jiyu's imagination. The battle of the heaven realm shocked the world. After Ji Wudao returned, he showed immense strength. Dong Huang Diyuan of the Divine Prefecture was able to control the divine power of the ancestral dragon and ancestral phoenix. She was not any weaker than the strongest of the former 6 great emperors. However, she had been forced back and injured by Ji Wudao's one attack. Ji Wudao's power crushed Dong Huang Diyuan. Similarly, the Buddha's Buddhist techniques could not restrain Ji Wudao either. Gu Donglu summoned a flood of spiritual demons and monsters, but they had all been defeated. Yi Futian's 4 great disciples could not hold up either. In that battle, Ji Wudao had defeated the strong figures from all the forces under the name of the Heavenly Emperor. He wanted to make them surrender, submit to the heaven realm, and view it as their master. He was not forced back until Devil Emperor Yu Sheng arrived with the Devil Abyss and fought against Ji Wudao. That battle had shaken the entire heaven realm, splitting the ground and sky. It had been like a duel of pinnacle features. Finally, the two called a truce. Neither could get an advantage over the other. Devil Emperor Yu Sheng led the strong figures from the various forces and retreated. Ji Wudao continued to guard the heaven realm. Both sides had their concerns. Thus, the heaven realm, led by Ji Wudao, and the great forces who protected the heavenly path formed an equilibrium. After the battle, Ji Wudao became the #1 figure of the current world. Devil Emperor Yu Sheng was second. Even though the Devil Realm had not entered this world, and was its own world, the Devil Emperor still cared for this world, and came to reinforce them at the critical moment. After all, he was brothers with the heavenly path, and went through life and death together. In the heavenly court, Ji Wudao was cultivating with his eyes closed at the heavenly palace's top. He had swallowed a lot of strength while visiting the other universes, and then swallowed the human ancestor. He had not fully digested the strength and combined it into his comprehension yet. Otherwise, he would not only be at this level. This also meant that he would become stronger and stronger. This was also why the chaotic heavenly swallowing method was so terrifying. However, Ji Wudao did not expect Yu Sheng to have control over the Devil Abyss's power and become the Devil Emperor. Even the chaotic heavenly swallowing method had trouble swallowing the billions of devil tribulations, and would be penetrated and destroyed. Thus, they ended in a truce. Both stops discontinued the battle. Reading on mybo.com, please. Yu Sheng's abilities in this battle were probably close to the previous Devil Emperor now. This also pushed Ji Wudao to continue cultivating. It seemed that he had to wait some time to become stronger. Your Majesty, someone came to report to him at this time. Ji Wudao furrowed his brows and opened his eyes to scan the other. The person who came quickly lowered his head and knelt on one knee, saying, "Your Majesty, someone came from the outside world, requesting to see you. I told him to leave, but he said that there's something important related to the possession of this world. I don't dare to delay this." Ji Wudao nodded slightly after hearing his words and said, "Bring them here." "Yes, Your Majesty." The person bowed and retreated. A moment later, some strong figures of the great Emperor Plane with extraordinary temperaments arrived. They bowed slightly after seeing Ji Wudao. "Greetings, Heavenly Emperor. What is the matter?" Ji Wudao asked. "We come from the Empyrean. The immortal Emperor of Empyrean will arrive soon and unify this world. The immortal Emperor's divine order is that if the Heavenly Emperor wishes to submit to him and help His Majesty uniting this world, You may become an immortal king of this world, the newcomer said. Ji Wudao listened quickly. When he visited the other universes, he learned of the immortal emperor of the Empyrean. He ruled over many universes, and was known as the immortal emperor of Empyrean. And now, he wanted to take over this world as well. He also wanted Ji Wudao to govern this world, and give him the title of immortal king. The heavenly emperor already wished to unify this world, so the timing is perfect. We can help you, the other party continued to say. That is logical. Ji Wudao nodded, and the few who had come quickly smiled, seeming extremely confident. However, Ji Wudao looked at them, and instantly, a horrifying aura shrouded the others directly. Their expressions dropped, and they stared at Ji Wudao. Heavenly Emperor, what do you mean by this? Ji Wudao extended a hand. The horrifying swallowing of divine power shrouded them. Instantly, their expressions turned to shock. They could feel their spirit souls being tugged out to be swallowed. They could not resist this force at all. It is not your place to worry about our world matters. As soon as he spoke, the people let out pained cries. They were swallowed into the horrifying black vortex. They were immediately annihilated and disappeared. After Ji Wudao swallowed those people, he frowned and said, "If you meet cultivators from the outside world again, kill without mercy." His voice spread throughout the heavenly court, shocking the cultivators of the heavenly court. Countless months later, the city of the ruins was now the most prosperous main city in the world. At the moment, many strong figures were gathered in one part of the city. They were strong figures from various emperor-level forces, and were all watching this area. This area had been sealed off because cultivators from the outside world entered this world from here. Recently, strong energy waves had come from this area. Strong figures from various forces all came to investigate. Someone suggested tearing the void and exiting, but it was rejected. If there were something outside, it would be too dangerous. It would be no different from suicide. However, the energy waves from this area were getting more and more frightening now. The sealed space here seemed to be getting unstable, as if an extremely frightening force was about to be unleashed. Right then, the sealed space shimmered with scary light. It looked extremely demonic, and all the strong figures of the emperor-level forces were affected. "What is that?" someone asked. "I don't know. It seems that an outside force is going out of control." Some people's expressions were horrified. Just as they were speaking, a beam of blinding light descended. Then the horrible divine light destroyed the sealing power of this place directly. There were muffled booms and the sky broke apart. A huge figure descended from the sky, passing through the broken space, and coming to this world. The strong figures were all forced back. The blinding divine light made it practically impossible to open their eyes. But at this moment, they still withstood the stinging pain to stare at the monstrous figure that had descended. Their hearts pounded incessantly. That monstrous figure was like a city that came from the outside world. It was also like a boundless altar that had many super transmission matrices. It landed with the piercing divine light. The transmission matrices opened the world up, and many heavenly emperor figures descended from the sky. The gods of another world descended, coming to this world. The strong figures immediately sent what they saw back to their emperor-level forces. At that moment, all of the great forces were shaken. After Ji Wudao had returned and taken back the heaven realm, strong figures from the outside world had invaded them, wanting to conquer this world. The city of ruins was the first to be affected. The incoming strong figures controlled the main city with unstoppable speed, turning this city into their base in this world. It shocked the entire world. Since then, the world seemed to return to that chaotic era. Of course, they all realized that the strongest threat was from the outside world. The world that was invading them was known as the Empyrean, and the god they believed in was the immortal sovereign of Empyrean. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.